going to take a look at a really fun website called Noupe. One of the things that I find most attractive about this are the whimsical elements and how things are laid out on the page. So I thought I would share some of my observations about this website with you fabulous Photoshop students. I contacted Michael Dobler. He's the CEO and owner of Noupe.com and also Smashing Magazine. So he has granted us full permission to look at this website and talk about it in our class. So a shout out to Michael Dobler. Thank you very much for doing this for us. Let's start off by looking at some of these elements. You've got an area up here at the very top of the page where they have their social icons centered and also a nice little search button. I find that this kind of usability placed right at the very top makes a web page very accessible for whoever may be visiting. So, especially in this age of such activity in social media, make sure that whenever you do design your websites that the social icons are front and center in some way. Now, I have seen these prominently placed at the bottom or even off to the side. So just make sure that they're really visible to the users and you can connect with this company right away. I also like the placement of the search bar. And notice that they've carried the concept of this plank of wood. They've carried it onto the search bar itself. You can see these little ridges up here that are part of that. So that I thought was very inventive and very, very fun. And it's actually pretty easy to do. So other things that we have going on here. In the background, now that you have all covered filters and you know what they are, you can probably guess that they put some kind of Gaussian blur on an image here in the background. And one of the things about this that is really nice is that it takes attention away from the background and it helps focus the user more on the actual web page itself. So that was a great way to draw the person's eye away from the background and onto what you really want them to look at. Notice these little details. You've got like a monkey hand or a gorilla hand hanging over the side, and here's a toucan, and here's another little monkey that's just hanging out on the board. Look at these pieces of grass, or leaves that are down here on the side, or ferns. As I look down a little further, there's some ants marching across, and even a caterpillar. These are the kinds of little bits of detail that just really draw the eye of your user. So place interesting details on your page that tie in with what you are trying to project. And I think that you'll find that you capture the imagination of that viewer, and they'll be much more likely to stay and figure out what you are all about. So that is really, really fun. Notice that the menu does not go completely across the top of the page here. They have it centered over to the right-hand side. That was kind of an interesting placement, an interesting treatment of navigation. Another thing about this particular web page is that this is really more of a blog page in many ways. You'll notice that we've got this date stamp over here, April 29th, 2013. If I scroll down a little bit, there's another one, April 28th, and there's another, April 27th. So it's really interesting that they were able to, again, carry that theme from day to day to day, and also carry over this wood idea with the layers and the blending inside of each one of these designations for that particular day. Another nice thing is that they have this separation bar. This area up here at the very top, that one is the most current blog entry. After the separation bar, that's when you see the other entries for the other dates. And there are no more separation bars, but there is still that date that is placed there. So that's a really great way to feature your very, very first article. Other things to look at is I want to draw your attention to the background color, especially as we start going down to the middle of the page here. You'll notice that when we get to right about here, This is a pretty plain web design. Black, solid black over here, solid gray here, a little grayer here, and back to that solid black. Let's look at how they got here. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. So you see this on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side. Notice how this photo is fading. It's fading to black. This is a very, very common web practice when you have pages that are going to be quite lengthy, and especially if you don't know how long those pages are going to be. You'll often find that in the middle of those pages, you fade to a solid color and get out of the graphics like they've done here. That allows your page to expand vertically. So if you think about the HTML coding, what they would do is they would slice out a very small piece of this background, or even code it as a straight color. And if they used it as an image and used a slice, they would have that slice repeating vertically to accommodate all this extra code. If they did not have that as a background image, they would just do it as a color on that particular div and allow it to stretch that way. Okay, so let's continue down to the bottom of our page. Okay, we can see some of the elements starting to come back in here. Let's take a look at it more fully. Now, isn't that clever? See how they wrapped the tree root, the tree base, around the edge of the graphic to give it more of a 3D feel? That is really, 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 really fun. So obviously we're looking at a couple of layers here, right? So right about here is where they placed this image on top of this div. Right about there is where they placed this image behind this div that contains this color. So that's one of the nice things about what we're doing. You can start to stack elements on your page now to give that illusion of depth. So lots of fun. Notice what they put down here in the footer and how much attention they paid to the footer. You've got a whole subterranean world here. You've got a little mole with a headlight who's looking through these little tunnels. This is awesome. And there's another little mole over here. So they are drawing your eye to the information on the bottom by, again, placing some very imaginative icons and images. So you've got a few links down here at the bottom. One is contact, one is about. But over here on the right-hand side, look, there is a repeat of those social icon links that you can go ahead and click on and be connected with them to. So not only did they place it at the top, they placed it at the bottom. I can't stress how important social icons are today. So that's super, super important. Let's look at the other things that they also have on this page. They also have a really easy way of navigating from one page to the next with their blog posts here. The page that they're currently on is set apart physically and also with the color. So if this was on page 2 would look like this, and page 1 would be green in the back. That's kind of fun. So that's a great way to visually let people know where you are on your page, and you can do a lot of that through graphics. Another final thing I would like to point out is over here on the left-hand side. Notice that they have this little sign that says "to the top." Whenever you have a very, very long web page, you need to provide some way to help your user go from the bottom to the top very easily, quickly, and efficiently. And you don't have to just use text that says "to the top" anymore. Look at how they did theirs. They put a great little signpost over here on the side to, again, stay within that same overall theme of what they're using on their web page. So guys, I hope you are just as excited about this web page as I am. I still think it's just so much fun and just a blast to take a look at and to see how they created it. In our next couple ones of these web showcases, actually, we're going to be finding other topics and techniques to talk about that you may not have looked at before. So I hope you guys are looking forward to looking at the next ones. Along with today's lecture, you're going to find a PSD file that I put together of screenshots from Noupe.com. So take a look at it and see how many more things that you can come up with that will help inspire you for your web designs. See you guys in the next video.